Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Welcome indeed to the fastest paced soccer show in SoCal. This is Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. There's Ananda, covering all the week's news, highlights, and more from LAFC, the Galaxy, Angel City, Orange County Soccer Club, and of course, your major arena soccer league zone, Empire Strykers. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, JR Liebert, affectionately known as The Scarf. Thanks so much for joining me on yet another absolutely jam-packed episode of Soccer in 60. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on all your podcasting platforms, and please make sure you subscribe to Soccer in 60 on YouTube. We have a fantastic interview today with Maurice Edu, our producer Gunnar, and Christian Philemon, Philly. He's right above me there. Sat down with Mo Edu for a fantastic interview. The former #1 overall pick, the Rookie of the Year, NCAA National Champion, and oh, by the way, Apple TV commentator du jour. He is incredible, and it's a fantastic interview. Two clubs continue their playoff march, one to the tune of Cinderella's Waltz, as Angel City wraps up another tumultuous season. Galaxy make their roster decisions for 2025, and the Empire Strykers inch that much closer to the start of their season. Yes. Let me introduce everybody on screen right above me there. The voice of the Empire Strykers, one Christian Philemon. Christian, welcome back, my friend.
Christian, since when have you called me Christian? The only person that calls me Christian in this world is my wife. What are we, married now, Scarf? I know we hang out a lot, but come on. I want an annulment right away. Fellas, great to see everybody here. Other than Ananda, we're all looking grayer. So fantastic. These faces for radio are looking uber sexy on this Thursday.
Yeah, you mentioned Ananda and Tim. Before we check in with Ananda and Tim, let me check in with our good friends over at Omnitrans. In partnership with the Empire Strykers, experience the thrill of game day with Omnitrans. Be in the heart of the action at Toyota Arena and let Omnitrans take care of the ride. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip to cheer on the Strykers. Don't miss out on the excitement and make every moment count at Toyota Arena. Ride with Omnitrans to your next Empire Strykers game. Someone who's been out to tons of Empire Strykers games, of course, Orange County's finest and one of our favorite here on the show, one Timmy Kolach. Tim, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Dude, feeling tremendous today, Mr. Scarf, man. It's good to see you, pal.
You as well. And we're going to talk a lot about Galaxy, so it is extremely important that we have Ananda Karana on here of Lacuna Galaxiana podcast. Ananda, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. It's been a while, so it's good to see you guys, man, on screen again. Good to be here.
Super good to have you back, my friend. And the 2025 roster decisions were made about the LA Galaxy. They made a couple of decisions that they, we thought they might make. One in letting Diego Fagundes go for now. But let's talk about what those decisions were first and foremost. Exercising options to retain defenders John Nelson and Mauricio Cuevas and midfielders Tucker Lepley, Gino Vivi, and Isaiah Parente. They extended the contract of Christian Ramirez through 2026 and goalkeeper Brady Scott through 2026 with an option in 2027, and declining options on Miguel Berry, Eric Zavaleta, and that might be it for Eric Zavaleta, who knows, and midfielder Diego Fagundes. Of course, they are still in talks, Ananda, for Diego Fagundes to return and talking with Botafogo on extending Mateus Nascimento's loan. Look, you'll have the core back, but we're talking about Galaxy Player of the Year Diego Fagundes that you're in talks with. You don't currently have him under contract. What does that mean for the Galaxy in this offseason?
Yeah, it's a really, really big decision for the front office to either re-sign or let go of a guy that was a mainstay. Look, if you look at the stats, 8 goal contributions, 6 goals, 2 assists, not necessarily anything to write home about, but Diego's impact on this team is much more than on the pitch. He was the midfield general. Greg talked about in the middle of the season, as soon as Diego came into that midfield, he stabilized it along with Marco Royce. And that's when you saw the uptick in form and getting out of that 16-game winless streak to start the season. So I think right now, Scarf, it's a numbers thing. I mean, obviously, Diego, here's the conundrum that the front office is facing, is the fact that I think the Galaxy will probably not offer him his market value. And I feel like there's another team out there that are willing to pay, what he probably deserves to be paid. I don't know what that number is. It's probably closer to $1 million. And I'm not sure the Galaxy are going to pay that just based off of where they are in their roster. And that's a conundrum right now.
Yeah, 31 years old, but 15 years in the league. If they have an MLS Hall of Fame someday, he will be in it. One of the few 75 players, one away each, by the way, from being an 80-80. Let me talk to you. With Nascimento really hitting his stride towards the end of the season, how important is he to their 2026 aspirations? And I just want to remind everybody, from May 28th to August 16th, before that groin injury, he was as good as it got for the Galaxy. 3 goals, 2 assists in Leagues Cup matches. A very, very good striker. What does it mean if they can retain him a year longer from Botafogo?
Yeah, look, I think he's a really, really bright prospect. And I think if the Galaxy, front office and Greg have the belief in him, I think he would be a good prospect. But what's interesting was, I don't know if you guys talked about this last show, but in Galaxy Media Day the other day, it didn't sound like Greg was too convinced on him. He kind of gave an interesting response when a member of the media asked him about Nascimento. So I'm not sure the front office is looking like they're trying to get a loan, Scarf, or trying to work out a loan deal, but I'm not sure Greg Vanney and the coaching staff are convinced. And so I think that's what's interesting to me. Greg talked about he really needs at that number 9 position with the loss of Dejan Jovic. He needs a guy that's going to bang in 15 to 20 goals a season. And that's really the bar that he set. Can Nascimento hit that bar? Not sure. It's a big question mark. And so that's, again, the conundrum, at least with Nascimento at the number 9.
Yeah, Tim, let me ask you real quick. With Marcinkowski and Mitrovic and now Brady Scott in the fold, 3 goalkeepers, it's something we seemed to talk about a whole bunch last season. What does that tell you about the Galaxy's keeper situation going into 26?
That they don't know what they're doing. I think they have too many. I understand having 3 keepers, and it was a problem last season with the 3 keepers. It was a zoo. You had to trade one of them. You should have traded one of them before the start of the season. You'd have gotten way more value for it. And to have 3 of them with JT, Brady, and Mitrovic, I think it's a problem. I just think it's a big, giant problem that they need to figure out. And I don't think one of them is going to be there come January.
Yeah, you're probably right. Philly, real quick, a player we know very well. What are your thoughts on them extending the contract of forward Christian Ramirez into 2026?
I mean, what a journey he's had from the time he was playing with Minnesota down in the USL days to playing at Aberdeen, a team that was made famous by Sir Alex Ferguson, traveling around. Look, he's a goal scorer, man. I mean, he's not, to me, in my opinion, with the way they need to rebuild things, he's not going to be your constant presence up top, but he's a really solid super sub who has the ability to either poach some goals, or as we saw during his time at LAFC and Houston, where he operated as a false 9 as well. So, I mean, I think it's solid. He extends his career. He's from around here. You honor the local boy for his efforts, and I think he could make a nice contribution coming off of the Pine Pony, but that's it.
Yeah, speaking of which, we've talked a lot of Galaxy. We're actually going to throw it over to the interview that Christian, right up there, Philly Philemon, and I've called him Christian twice now just to mess with him a little bit.
It makes me feel weird.
And Gunnar, our producer, sat down with Mo Edu for a fantastic interview. Let's throw it on to them for some Galaxy and LAFC talk.
Our guest is a leading voice of North American soccer broadcasting. As a player, he earned close to 50 senior caps with the U.S. and competed in the 08 Olympics and the 2010 World Cup. In addition to starring for Toronto and Philly in MLS, he played extensively for Scottish Giants Rangers, winning multiple league and domestic cup titles in the process. Having worked as an analyst for Fox Sports and CBS Sports, he's covered men's and women's World Cup, a Copa America, and 2 Gold Cups. Today, he's a core member of Apple TV's MLS Season Pass. We're so happy to have with us the pride of Fontana, California, Mr. Maurice Edu. Mo, welcome to Soccer in 60.
Damn, what an intro that is, man. You gotta travel with me more often and intro me in every room that I walk into. That was incredible, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing all right. We certainly appreciate having you on here. It's been a long time in the making, but thank you for spending time with us knuckleheads on Soccer in 60.
No,
All
I
right.
appreciate you guys having me on.
Let's get right to it. Let's start with the Galaxy and tackle a big question first. Greg Vanney has made the playoffs 7 times since 2017. He's a 2-time MLS champion as a coach and a Supporters Shield winner and a former MLS and CONCACAF Coach of the Year. Like, how do you feel this season should factor into his legacy? Do you dismiss it as a fluke? Is it an anomaly? Should his job be on the line at some point? Like, did he redeem himself, though, in the final 25 games or so? Like, help us make sense of the insanity that happened in Carson.
I tried to be a level-headed person. I try not to let my emotions dictate things and guide me too far one direction. And so with that being said, I look at this season as more of an anomaly, right? You're missing Ricky Pooch, which if you take a Ricky Pooch out of pretty much any team in MLS, the drop-off is going to be significant based on the amount of goal contributions, the influence that he has on this team, and the style of play is kind of governed by Ricky Pooch. He's such a focal point and influential figure. So you take him out of that team, it was always going to be hard to replace him. A lot of conversations in preseason and even towards the end of last year was like, oh, well, there's Marco Royce. Different players, right? Completely different players in the way that they can influence and control a team. And we saw that play out. And then you factor in some of the other players that had to leave the club after winning the championship last season. You factor in some of the injuries that hamper this team. You can label these excuses, but they're also the reality of the situation. And I think you saw towards the back end of the season, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but the record for LA Galaxy changed significantly when they started getting bodies healthy and bodies consistently on the pitch. We were able to put together a consistent kind of core, I guess you could label it, for that team. You saw the results start to shift. So I would label this more as an anomaly. If you're a Galaxy fan, of course you're frustrated, you're pissed off, because how do you go from the heights of last season, the excitement, just the enthusiasm and all of the, I guess, positive noise that surrounded your team to the negative noise that surrounded your team this year, right? Such a high and low type of, I'm doing this 6-7, right? Such a high and low type of moment for your club. But I think there should also be a sense of perspective that's attached to that. And so with that, next year it's a massive season for Greg Vanney. I think he'd be the first one to raise his hand and say, yeah, I acknowledge that, I own that, and it's pressure that you want. I feel like in sports, whether you're a player or you're a manager, pressure is a privilege, right? Because that means that there's expectations. That means that people think something of you. Galaxy fans, us on this side, we think something of Greg Vanney. He's shown us why we should think something of him. Having success at multiple clubs, to me, that's validation that you're a good manager. People can label, if you just win at one club, people might say, well, you found lightning in a bottle. You had the right group of people, the right group of players at the right moment. Things just all aligned perfectly. Okay, you did that. That you did have some incredible pieces in Toronto, but now you've come to LA and you were able to find that same level of success, right? So to me, next season is a big season for Galaxy, for Greg Vanney, but these are the things that come with playing or managing a top club in this league and in world football as well.
Mm-hmm. You transitioned us perfectly into the question I was going to ask you now. And you said, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I actually do have them. So the Galaxy went 11, 8, and 6 in their final 25 games. So that's a much more respectable record. I think that's what you're referring to down the stretch there with the Galaxy. Now, with several players stepping up as contributors during that stretch, and with Ricky Pooch now returning, as you said, in 26, how close do you feel the current Galaxy team is to being that MLS Cup contender again? And what are some urgent roster needs that you see for this offseason to make that happen?
Ooh, I don't know if they're close. I don't know if they're close to being that team, because you look across the field, or you look at the teams that are still in the playoffs currently, right? The quality, whether it's the top end quality, or it's the depth, or it's just the clarity on how these teams play and who are their big contributors, that's a difference maker. That's what leads you to go on to win MLS Cup. When Galaxy won MLS Cup, we knew who their difference makers were going to be, right? It was Ricky Pooch, was Paintil, it was Peck, it was Fagundes, and like you knew who your core guys were, who your top end talent were, and then you knew you had dogs in these positions. You knew Sorillo and Fagundes were going to be dogs in midfield that were going to allow you to have success in this end. You knew who Yamane was playing well. Nelson had locked down that left back spot. Like you had Yoshida. Like you just had a collection of guys that helped to define this team, and it gave you clarity into what you should expect from them. Right now, there's a little bit of question marks around various positions. Who's going to be your number 9 going forward? Is it Nascimento? Is that contract going to be, I think he's on loan, is that going to be picked up? Or are you searching elsewhere for a number 9 that's going to come in and consistently deliver, consistently be a threat, consistently give you that option? Can you get the best out of Paintil and Peck on a consistent basis? Can they stay healthy? I'm confident in those two. I think maybe the bigger question is, there were rumors before this season about Peck, if he was going to be here or not. I'm sure going into this offseason, there'll be similar rumors as to teams looking to potentially come in and sign him. But if they can lock in Peck, okay, you have your 2 wingers. If Pooch has no hiccups and no kind of setbacks, you have your facilitator, you have your focal point, your architect, your quarterback, for lack of a better comparison, where I would say that they need to kind of get a little bit out of some depth and also just kind of establish who are your starters in that back line. Has Cuevas won that position? Is Chris Rindolph ready to take a step up and be a consistent starter? Or is he a depth piece at that center back position? Can Emi Garces be the player that we saw him in 2024, where he knew how to use his skill set and his traits to his advantage? And it was beauty. It was a thing of beauty, right? When he came into the team, even before he got introduced to the team, Greg Vanney, every time we interviewed him pregame, he sang this kid's praises. And we're like, the guy hasn't even been on the bench for you yet. Like, what are you talking about? And then when he was finally fit and acclimated to the team, the league, the city, everything that encompasses going to a new club, we saw it, right? You saw the raw talent, but how that, alongside an experienced center back in Yoshida, how that partnership worked so well for them. So I would say top end talent, and on the attacking side of the game, there's a little bit more clarity, minus the number 9 position. But defensively, shoring things up there, making sure that you can go and start having a season like you did in 2024, where your home record is what kind of dictated that season for you. They were so good at home. They didn't lose any games. I think they had lost the one, but it was at the Rose Bowl. That should be where I would focus a lot of my attention initially, is making sure that part of the pitch is consistent and one of their strengths going into next season.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch gears. We do have a team that's actually still alive in the MLS, so let's make sure we give them a little bit of time too. LAFC, right? After twice being shut out and losing to Austin in the regular season, the Black and Gold earned a pretty hard-fought 1-0 win, or 2-1 win, I should say, at home against their first-round opponent in the playoffs, with Sun and Buanga in the lineup, mind you. But then they go back to Austin and kind of wipe the floor with Austin. I wonder what you saw in that game. What made the difference for them? What made them so much better in that game than in the 3 previous games that they played against Austin?
I would say, well, one thing was the game was played on Sunday, so the script was written, right? Like Sunday, like it had to be Sun getting his first playoff goal in that match. And no, but all jokes aside, I felt like both Sun and Buanga, they were more clinical. They took their chances incredibly well. But even when you looked at the lineup, it felt like a more attack-minded lineup, right? Instead of having 3 in midfield, it was more of 2 in midfield with was it Delgado and Tillman, and then Ordaz was playing kind of alongside Buanga and on top, right? And so, but you felt this level of almost, there was this conviction and this point to prove amongst that group. From the opening whistle, you saw a different level of intensity. But again, similar to how I ended that conversation with Galaxy, you're talking about strengthening your defense, knowing that you have attacking quality. This is where LAFC have done so well. They know defensively that they are a team that's hard to break down. They don't concede much. Coming into the playoffs, they were the team that had the lowest XG against them. So that means that they don't give up many chances, and then they have top-end talent that's just absolutely elite. There's no better duo in Major League Soccer than Sun and Buanga, point blank, period. And when they're at their best, good luck, because they just have this kind of, when you watch them play, you would think, oh, these guys, they came through the academy together. Like that kind of bond, that kind of like partnership where they're just constantly looking for one another. They enjoy seeing the other one succeed. You don't always find that when it's two kind of alphas who could be, you know, king in that kind of setting. Sometimes there's that friction, or they're competing against one another. You're shooting, you're being selfish when you should pass. They're almost being too unselfish at times, right? But to your point, or to your question directly, I thought tactically they were set up in a more aggressive fashion with Ordaz in the lineup as opposed to Chouanier from the start. And then I just thought that they ran them ragged. They were aggressive. They were on the front foot. They won second balls. They kept plays alive. And then they were efficient, and they took their chances incredibly well.
I can tell you, I never liked the science as much when I was in high school, but I know chemistry when I see it in Sonny and Denny. They have it. It's a thing of beauty from the perspective of an LAFC supporter. No question about that. But let's look ahead to what many consider a blockbuster pairing of the conference semifinals, which, of course, LAFC's clashed with Vancouver, a team that the Black and Gold have played many times over the years. But the Caps have scored the third most goals, gave up the second fewest in the regular season. They took care of Dallas in 2 games to get to this point. What kind of a series are you expecting against this version of Vancouver? And what are the keys for LAFC's success in this matchup?
I'm expecting an incredibly exciting series because, you know, Keith Costigan and I, we were on this matchup, I believe, last season. And it was one where, you know, we started to ask the question, is there just sort of organic rivalry brewing between LAFC and Vancouver, playing so many times in different competitions? And, you know, at the time, their manager, Greg Vanney, was like, well, we got to start winning more games for that to become a real rivalry. I feel like this season, these two teams, the pieces that they've added, Thomas Mueller for Vancouver, Son obviously for LAFC, have helped to elevate their teams. But this Vancouver side, they're scary, dangerous, because when I mentioned earlier, one of the key components of having a successful team is depth. And this team has shown over the course of this season that it doesn't matter who's playing, it doesn't matter who's out. They have a system with their manager, Jesper Sorensen, that he's introduced that it just allows them to feel comfortable. You know, you have Ralph Priso, a defensive midfielder who's, you know, a couple rings down the line, starting games as a center back. Bilal Falbouni, who wasn't playing a ton of games early on, but now because of injuries to other center backs, has stepped in and hasn't missed a beat, right? Like when you have this kind of depth, it gives you that belief that you can go on and have success. Now, I will say LAFC is not Dallas, and I mean that with the most respect to Dallas, but they're not Dallas. Dallas is not going to ask the same kind of questions. Dallas is not, you don't look at that front line and think, I'm scared, or I'm fearful of these moments, or I gotta be thinking twice about if I'm a defensive midfielder, if I'm Sebastian Berhalter or Kubas. Do I really want to be too adventurous getting forward, knowing that when the ball turns over, that run back or that transition moment is a little bit more potent, a little bit more lethal? So I'm excited. I'm excited for what this game is going to look like, because these are two teams that are worthy of being in an MLS Cup final, based on how this season has gone for either club. And to me, this game is going to be won. Obviously, it's going to be played in Vancouver. So from LAFC standpoint, can they limit the influence that Mueller can have? Can they limit the amount of chances that they concede, and which has been one of their strengths, and stick to their game plan? They know in transition that they'll have their moments to really get at this team defensively. Can they make it uncomfortable for Ocampo, force him to defend more? Can they get Halbuni and Ralph Priso disorganized and asking questions as to the positioning of Son and Bouanga, and who's stepping out to press them, who's dropping deep? All those kind of little small details are where these games can be won. And then from a Vancouver standpoint, it's about, can they make sure that they're tactically disciplined? They have enough quality in their wingers, guys like Sabi, guys like Ahmed, guys like Jaden Nelson, who didn't even start, Ryan Gold's coming up the bench. So they have more than enough when it comes to attacking quality to go and ask questions of this LAFC back line. It's just a matter of, can they utilize being at home, get the game on their terms, have possession, but purposeful possession, to where they're like disrupting the back line. They're drawing out. I'm curious. Let me revisit this real quick. I'm curious what the center back trio is going to look like for LAFC, because we saw Jailson come in to play as the middle of that back line as opposed to Tafare. I'm curious to see what that looks like against Vancouver if Steve Cherundolo goes back to Tafari or if it keeps Giles. Anyway, so sorry, just to finish that, to put a button on that, Vancouver are a team that's been incredibly comfortable at home, confident at home. They got to definitely lean into that, make it uncomfortable for LAFC, frustrate Denny Bouanga. You saw the attempt from Austin with Ilie, hitting him right off the kickoff. I don't know if that's the right approach to go about it, but force someone else from LAFC to beat you beyond Denny Bouanga and Son.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're incredibly mindful of your time and appreciate the insight. We've gone a little long. I just wanted to, I feel like I can't let you go without taking you back to 2010 World Cup, U.S. against Slovenia. It's and I was wondering how often you get asked this. I don't want to go out on a downer, but I'm just curious, how often do you replay that for people that don't know the U.S. scores? You score the game winner, what looks like the game winner. No replay shows anything. Do you know what was called on the play? Do you ever think of that play today?
Does anyone know what was called on the play? Like, these are the days where I wish VAR existed, right? Because I mean, I can laugh about it now, but God, in the moment, that would have been the pinnacle, right, of my career, scoring a goal in a World Cup. And to your point, the way that game went, we were 2-0 down at halftime. We make some subs at half. We come on, 2-1, boom, 2-2. And then that would have been, it would have just, in dramatic fashion, it would have just been an incredible story, not even for me personally, but just for our team, right? That would have been one of the historic victories, I would say, in World Cup history, to have won a game in that kind of fashion. So I'm disappointed, I'm annoyed, I'm upset, not just from a personal standpoint, but also like what that would have been like for our team. But you know what? It also set the stage for us to really capture an audience and attract in a new audience because of how the Algeria game played out and the significance and how that moment was created for Landon to like really just springboard our team. And like I said, draw in a whole new era of fans that support the U.S. men's national team in U.S. soccer. So yeah, I don't know what the call was. I don't think we'll ever get that answer. I don't know if the referee knew what the call was then. He doesn't know what it was now. This man, I had a moment that I could have been showing my kids. Now it's gone. So it's like, he killed it for me, bro. He killed it for me.
I was going to say, thanks for at least giving us a more of a glass half full perspective on that. As Gunner's asking it, I'm thinking, great, way to go, buddy. Now he's never going to want to come back and hang out with us on the show ever again because he's living through those memories 15 years ago. Anyways, Mo, again, thank you so much for your time. I love listening to your analysis. You and Keith are great together. You're like a mad scientist with the X's and O's, but you've got the charisma and the presentation skills. So love the broadcasting, love what you do. What would be the next game we get to hear you on? What call?
We'll be on the call. First of all, thank you for that. Appreciate that and love calling games with Keith. Keith coaches as well, so I appreciate the way that he's able to like tee me up with questions that draw more out, right? Like he's able to apply the lens and the way that he sees the game as well. I think it's a good compliment to help drive the conversations in the right way. But yeah, our next game we're doing game 3 of Portland at San Diego. So that one's gonna be crazy. I don't know if you guys got a chance to catch the last game. Dramatic fashion. San Diego thought that they'd seen it out on the road, that they were gonna sweep Portland. Gage Guetta comes on in the second half, late header that draws them level. They win in PKs, and so game 3 in San Diego, all to play for.
All right, looking forward to it. Certainly going to be listening. Thanks again for your time. See ya maybe at BMO if LAFC gets another home game, but if we don't see each other between now and then, again, all the best, and yeah, let's all enjoy the playoffs together.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Really appreciate the time.
All right, there you hear Apple TV commentator, former #1 overall pick, NCAA champion, rookie of the year, and he played more games in his career with Rangers than anybody else. Mo Edu, what a cool life, what a cool career. We're very happy to have him on Soccer in 60. LAFC, super happy to have Denis Bouanga. He is inevitable, making the best 11 for the 3rd straight season. That's something that last player to do that at the striker position was Joseph Martinez in those great Atlanta days. 45 games this season, Philly, 45 goal contributions, 32 goals, 13 assists. What more is there to say about Denis Bouanga?
We've called him Denny the Destroyer for such a long time. He's now Denny the Centurion. And with 101, Denny the Dalmatian. Shout out our buddy Chris Lafferty for that. Look, he's one of the best players to play in MLS, period. Who would have thought that a kid playing in Liga 1 for a team that got relegated in Saint Etienne would have the type of impact that he would? And if anybody says, I would have, you're lying. Yeah, he had great games against PSG, Olympique Marseille, and a couple of the other squads, but I would never imagine a man of his talents would have come here and decimated people across MLS as he had. Only 3 seasons straight, 20-plus goals. I mean, that guy is a machine, box to box, plays with his heart on fire, and having a lot more fun now that he's got Sonny in the lineup.
Yeah, it was nice to see the boys get back to it once again with a win over Austin FC on the road at Q2 Arena. LAFC coming out on fire with 2 goals within the first 25 minutes. Sonny got one, then Denis got his 100th. 101 came just before first half stoppage, but Austin pulled one back, and they actually could have pulled 2 if not for a very poorly taken penalty kick for sure by Austin. Hugo Lloris not known for saving his PKs. Austin with several other good opportunities. Tim, let me ask you, the match ended 4-1, but it really could have been 3-3 at some points, maybe even 4-4, depending on how you look at it. Was LAFC lucky to escape, or is this just a case of them being better than their opposition over the course of the 90 minutes, and that's what would have happened?
I think it's a little bit of them being better. I think the poorly taken penalty kick, we've talked about it 100 times on the show, Scarf. Just go up and smash the thing. Don't fart around. Don't do whatever. Just go up, pick a spot, and hit it in the upper 90 where the keeper can't get it. I think the reality, though, is that LAFC is just better. And even though Austin, the Broccolis, I had to give that to you, Philly. Even though the Broccolis they played well, and they have had kind of LAFC's number a little bit. I think the reality is that Sonny and Denis and Marky Delgado and everybody else on LAFC was just better overall, and they were much more opportunistic and beat them 4-1. And I think the scoreline is the scoreline. I think that's what it should have been at the end of the game.
And Ananda, I hate to bring him back up to you again, but Tim mentioned the scoreline being 4-1. It doesn't get to 4-1 if not for the 96th minute play, by Mark Delgado. We're talking about 14 years in the league, the grizzled veteran who his IQ level on that pitch is just something else. And to see him making that play, Ananda, in the 96th minute, that interception that leads to the pass to Jeremy and they get the final goal. What does it mean to LAFC to have a player that 96 minutes in his 14th season, Mark Delgado, making plays like that?
I mean, he's incredible, and I could speak that from experience watching him for the Galaxy for, those years that he was there. I mean, this is a guy that's relentless. He has so much stamina, and he goes 110% for the full 90 plus, right? And that's why Greg always called him the great equalizer. He's that guy on your team where if you need, the thing is, Mark Delgado doesn't do anything extravagant. He makes winning plays. And every time, Scarf, I hate watch highlights of LAFC or hate watch a half, right? Admittedly, it's always Mark Delgado. It's Mark Delgado. He's the guy. Okay, like you have your stars, Bouanga and Son, but he's the guy that always sticks out to me. He's always at the right place at the right time, making winning plays. And like I said, like it hurts because I know how good he was for LA Galaxy and how pivotal he was for the midfield. And you guys are really lucky to have him, man. Like he's just a great player. And I hope you're seeing the value and what he actually means to any MLS team. Great player.
Absolutely. And now Philly, LAFC gets right back to it all the way on November 22nd. Thank you, international break. Philly, what does it mean that LAFC has to wait until the 22nd of November to go to Vancouver?
Well, look, Vancouver's got to wait the same amount of time, too. But what it means for LAFC more is that runs the risk of potential injuries. I don't want to put that out there. But look, we got players that are going to be out on international duty. Obviously, Denny is playing for a really important scenario, trying to help Gabon enter its first ever World Cup. So, he's not going to be taking a break. What that does, obviously, is it kills the momentum for both teams. And I do mean both teams. and it kind of kills our momentum for the playoffs. It just prolongs this. I mean, how a couple of years ago, the playoffs, everything was done by this time around. Now we have to wait until December. But look, they're going to face each other. Bad carpet places, what the acronym for BC places. It'll be an entertaining and fun game. It's not Vanny Sartini's Vancouver Whitecaps, a team that LAFC would steamroll in every single freaking tournament. This is going to be a highly contested game and a really important one. And I know the Vancouver Whitecap faithful haven't forgot the amount of times that LAFC schmammered Vancouver. So this is going to be, chippy. It's going to be intense. And the winner moves on, obviously, to the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, we're going to say a very temporary goodbye to Ananda Karana. Ananda, we'll have you back for Best 11. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you back in a little bit. We want to check in right now with our good friends over at National Core. National Core is one of the nation's largest nonprofit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. And to learn more about National Core and their mission, head on over to nationalcore.org. Philly, Tim, we have been going back and looking over the Empire Strykers season, the 2024-2025 season. We're at the point where they hit a little bit of a rough patch in the road, but maybe that's because they played back-to-back matches in two different states on the road. First, the 7-5 loss to the Kansas City Comets, which dropped them to 3-4-0 on the season. Philly, despite Marco Fabian with 2 goals and an assist, talk to us about how difficult it is to go up against a Chad Vandergriff-led defense there in Kansas City.
I mean, look, but you also talk about some stellar midfielders, forwards, and obviously some good keepers. And Cable Dom Arena, where the Comets play, that's one of the loudest buildings in the arena game. They love their Kansas City Comets back there. I mean, so much that they kicked the Kansas City Kings out and they moved to Sacramento, the NBA team in the 80s. It's a loud, formidable place. And, Strykers are really trying to find their groove at that point. I mean, the season prior wasn't a very successful one, but anytime you go up against Kansas City, whether it be on the road or at home, they're always going to be a tough team. They got big target forwards. They got defenders of the year. They've got incredible scorers in that is Zach Reggett. I mean, it's always a tough team to contest with. They never forgot how Uzi Tayu's overtime winner propelled the Ontario Fury into the MASL Cup, Ron Newman Cup finals in 2021. And so anytime they see that Empire Strykers logo / Ontario Fury, there's always going to be a little hate at the boys from SoCal, from KC.
Yeah, and Tim, talk about one of the more frustrating matches of the season for the Empire Strykers when they headed out to Allen, Texas, as the Dallas Sidekicks hosted them on what was actually a beautiful Saturday evening out there in Texas. It was, like we said, their second away game, second state is in as many days. And you saw the fatigue. The legs kind of went out from under them. Outscored 3-1 in the second half and dropping to 3-5 on the season, losing. And I'm going to do this for all the young ones out there, 6-7 in that match. But that one was a tough one, right, Tim?
Yeah, that one's a tough one. Like you said, when you're traveling from Missouri to Texas, it's not that far of a trip. But at the end of the day, you're still getting on a plane at night, getting in late, getting some sleepies, and then trying to go play another professional soccer game that night. It's amazingly difficult. And for those that have never traveled professionally, me included, it's difficult to go do that and just go to a trade show or something. I could only imagine when playing professional soccer at the highest level of indoor soccer in the world, and you're trying to play a second game and a second night on turf. That's pretty difficult there, Scarf.
And Philly, as we kick off this year's preseason for the Empire Strykers, you got to sense the excitement at Toyota Arena in the Empire Strykers camp. Let me ask you, as this will be one of several times we check in with you, obviously, before we kick off the Empire Strikers season. One Christian Philly Philem, the voice of the Empire Strykers on their play-by-play broadcast. What are you most excited about right now as we enter preseason?
that the season is on the horizon. I mean, this is the longest off season in any sport. It's been a long time. You're going through these games, and I'm forgetting I forgot all about them, to be completely honest with you. Jamie Lovegrove had a great game against the Empire Strikers, but this seems like it was forever and a day ago. The fact that we're starting to see social media posts, they have had their medicals. You're seeing them train over at the Y in Upland. I mean, I'm excited for the season. This is going to be a really deep Empire Strikers team. They brought in a lot of players that competed during the TST tournament. You got players from other teams. We got Steven Chavez from the Outlaws, Dyerson Gratterall, who was at TST, Felipe Dutra. I mean, so many talented players. And obviously, you got Marco Fabian signed in for the long term, bringing in the core, Justin Stinson. Obviously, you got Brian Orozco, now Brandon Gomez coming off of the high of winning TST with bumpy pitch. I'm just ready to go, man. It's too long of an off season. I can't wait to get crack-a-lackin'. The first home call will be on December the 12th at Toyota Arena. Tickets are available. And of course, the Strikers are on the road Black Friday, taking on who else? The San Diego Sockers. So you want to talk about a war? That's going to be a war. Those two teams are stacked to the gills, and it's going to be a big statement maker, potentially a final in some cases, whether it be semifinal or an actual final itself. We'll see.
And one more year under head coach Onua Obasi and that fantastic system. Very
reigning coach of the year, Onua Obasi. Thank you very much.
That's right. Very excited to get things kicked off out there in the Inland Empire at Toyota Arena. But from one season kicking off to another season coming to a close. And of course, that means we are at the Angel City portion of Soccer in 60. And I don't know that it can get much worse for Angel City than a 2-1 loss in Chicago to the worst team in the NWSL. And of course, it comes on the heels of the very difficult conversations brought up by Elizabeth Eddy, maybe some of that carrying over into the match. But I mean, it was a rough one. Tim, Angel City getting out to another good start. Miyabi Mariah scoring in the 23rd minute. You're thinking, all right, we're off and running. It's going to be a celebration. Kristen Press's last game, Ali Riley's last game. And then we get just the downfall again. But let's talk first about Mariah and her first goal. A big number for Angel City. There's someone else now that they can count on. And her first goal, like I said, in an Angel City shirt.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, falling to the worst team in the league. Again, it's one of these things where they play well in that first half. If you watch them, they're pressing the ball, they get the goal, they go up, and then they fall apart. And now the game-winning goal was a little bit of bad luck, but you've got to clear the box, especially in the 6th minute of extra time. And for the defense just to get undressed on that last goal, it's the goalkeeper makes a great stop, but if you've got to stop them at the penalty spot to avoid that first shot going off in the first place, Scarf.
Yeah, and Philly, let me ask you one quick question too. In front of 4,219 fans, the careers of Kristen Press, Ali Riley, and potentially U.S. women's national team keeper Alyssa Nair, they all end in front of 4,200 fans. Is that a statement on the women's game right now, or just the state of the women's game in Chicago, or what's going on there?
It's the state of the women's game in Chicago. You said it. So two of the worst teams in the NWSL. People finding other things to do. Still, the Halloween weekend as well. This has no bearing on how people view the sport or NWSL in general. There was no implications to this. Sure, you had some stellar players that you could have saw off, but at the end of the day, again, a family weekend, taking time to hang out with the kids. To me, you go watch a Portland Thorns game or a KC Kern game. You really want to get a state of how the NWSL is? Watch the playoffs. It's going to be ruckus, not the last place teams. You could argue that the last place teams in any professional sport would have not garnered a healthy audience. The Dodgers won the World Series recently. When the Brooklyn Dodgers played their last game at home at Ebbets Field against the Pittsburgh Pirates, nobody showed up. When there's nothing to play for, people want to spend their time and their money doing other things. That's just my thought.
No, look, you're absolutely right. Let's talk about this end of the season run. And I'll just say the Alexander Strauss era was 16 matches. Okay, 16 matches, 3 wins, 4 draws, and 9 losses. Just 13 points from 16 matches. Even more of an indicator of something I'm a little worried about, Tim. not just 13 points from 16 matches. How about just 13 goals scored in those 16 matches and never more than 2? Is there something to worry about here, or did losing Alyssa Thompson and kind of jettisoning a lot of those veterans kind of midway through the season, did that really affect their offensive output as much as anything else?
I think there's definitely something wrong. We were talking about the Galaxy needing a number 9. So does Angel City. They need somebody that can put the ball in the back of the net. I about said biscuit in the basket, Philly, but I know you're hungry. So the reality is they've got to score goals. And you look at the best teams in the league, they're not scoring 1 goal a game, 2 goals a game. They're putting 3 of them in. And the reality is Angel City can't right now. So Thompson leaving, yes. Some of the other veterans leaving, absolutely. It does cause a fury. But the reality is Alex Strauss is going to bring in 2-3 other people this offseason, and they will start scoring goals next year. If they don't get off to a hot start, though, the first few games of the season, there's not going to be talk about what's going on with Alex Strauss, but there will definitely be concerns. And while you're not going to get 4,200 people at the game, you definitely may be only seeing 11 or 12.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? We talked about it. They were having 11, 12, 13, 14,000. Now, look, you ask Chicago Red Stars, they'll take 11,000 in the door right now. I mean, that was depressing to watch on television there. But, you know, the other thing to think about, too, the other thing that transitioned over the course of this season wasn't just a new coaching regime. How about Disney CEO Bob Iger and his wife Willow Bay purchasing the team and now taking more of a leadership role? There was also a very interesting piece this week by Alexis Ohanian, who, of course, is still on the board at Angel City, but relinquished his ownership role of everything. So much like we've seen with the Dodgers, much like we've seen with LAFC and the Lakers recently, where they're starting to put a lot of their money where their mouth is, it's going to be very, very interesting to see. Playing in Los Angeles is still a massive draw for anybody. So who will they be able to lure from Europe? Who will they be able to lure from the NWSL? Who will they be able to lure to Los Angeles so that they can wear the Angel City crest rather than wherever they were coming from? But you got to finish better than they did. Last 8 matches, Tim, 1 win, 1 draw, 6 losses. We mentioned how bad the Alexander Strauss era was, but it just kept getting worse. Let me ask you, they were shut out 6 times in those matches. They did keep 3 clean sheets. What is going to be more important for them, in your opinion, moving on to next season? The ability to keep a clean sheet or the ability to generate 3 or 4?
3 or 4. You've got to score goals because I mean, you look at this weekend in USL, right? 3 of the top 4 teams lost going into the playoffs. You know why? They didn't score. You got to score goals to win in this league, and you want to put 22,000 butts in seats, score goals, and I can guarantee you're going to start filling up BMO again.
Yeah. Philly, your take real quick, scoring goals or keeping clean sheets?
Oh, come on. Nobody wants to see a stalemate. You kidding
All
me?
right.
It's all about goals, man. And look, Strauss will have everything figured out. He'll have a full camp, a new identity, but the new identity is what the club has from the top to the bottom. Culture obviously seems to be a thing. Personnel that's been there from day one is leaving. So you got to scratch your head going internally. What's going on? If you got Disney folk in there, you know it's going to be very much looking at its Excel spreadsheets rather than feeling the vibes. Is that a good thing? I don't know. But in LA, you got to win because there are far too many distractions around here if you're not winning.
Listen, let's talk Little Orange County. No shots on goal. No problem in the playoffs. I am blown away by the result in Sacramento, one of the toughest places to play in USL, against Sacramento Republic, who we knew would come out so physical, and they did. And you're talking about, Tim, you're our resident Orange County Soccer Club expert. If I tell you at the start of the match, your most important player is going to get a red card, your team is going to generate 0 shots on target, and now you've got to prepare for the next round in the playoffs because you won against Sacramento in Sacramento, ready to go to Isotopes Park to take on New Mexico United. What is going on in your mind right now?
You know what? It'd been like I'd been at between the rinks for better part of the afternoon, because I would have told you to pound sand that we would have never escaped out of there with a win. But at the end of the day, that's exactly what happened. And I got to give credit to a couple of people. First off, Chris Hagart, he's been getting the teeth kicked out of him most of the season. He finally had enough, and they both get red cards in at the end of the first overtime period of the extended time.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, kudos to Coach Stone for keeping a couple of subs in his back pocket, and then if you saw Colin Shuttler's face, he was an unhappy camper that he gets subbed out in the 120th minute, 119th minute.
Yeah.
And then Ted Godona comes in and is the hero, having not seen a penalty in his entire professional career. Last time he saw one was like, I think they said high school or college over at Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, Colin Shuttler had given up goals on, I think they said it was 12 of the last 13 penalties that he had seen. And so to bring in Tet, it's very much a mind game at that point.
Look, the quote, Tim, from their press release is exactly what you said. In bringing on Tetsuya Kodono to face the penalty kicks, and I quote, "This marked the first time he had faced professional penalty kicks." What? We're not talking about Philly. We're not talking about John McCarthy, a penalty kick specialist, being subbed on for an injured leg broken Maxime Crepeau. What does it say, Philly, about Coach Danny Stone that he's got the Danny Stones to be able to take off a guy like that and bring on Tet Kodona, who had never seen PKs in his life?
What do you want me to say? You buried the lead. You literally took the words out of my mouth. That Danny's got some stones. That's really the bottom line, to put a person in that situation. But what we don't account for is what we see in training and what's going on the practice pitch. If he put him in there, obviously he saw something that nobody else talked about. So Danny does have some stones to go that direction. And look, when you miss big, when you swing big, you miss big, and vice versa. In this case, the gamble paid off.
Yeah, and Tim, look, he's saved his first two that he saw, I think it was, right? So, I mean, you're thinking like, oh my God, I did catch lightning in a bottle. Tet is on fire. And oh, by the way, he wound up saving 3 PKs of the 6 that he saw. Philly, I think you're absolutely right. Tim, you were shaking your head too. We don't know what he sees in training, what Danny Stone sees in training. But let me ask you, looking ahead now, Tim, no Chris Hagart. I mean, they're going to appeal the red card, but it's hard to see a way that red card gets rescinded, right? So the straw that stirs the drink in the midfield for them all season, Chris Hagart likely not going to be there against New Mexico as they travel to New Mexico. They lost at home 3-0 to New Mexico back in May. On the road, they drew to New Mexico 3-3. What I read into that is they've given up 3 goals twice in a row to New Mexico, and now they're not going to have Chris Hagart. What do they do?
I think you give the ball to Silla and Tom Brewitt and Nico Ben Alcazar and Stephen Kelly. You put those 4 guys in that midfield and on defense, and then you get Mohamedou Ward we've talked about this 3 or 4 times. You get him to use his speed. That'll break free Ethan Zubak to get some shots on goal in this game. New Mexico is not anywhere near as good as Sac Republic is, and they beat them without getting a shot on goal, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a super fun game, and I think there will be more than no goals in regulation and extra time. I think what you're going to see is a couple of extra goals this weekend.
Yeah, and what you're also going to see is a couple of those names on our best 11 right here. This is our favorite segment here. We bring back Ananda. Philly's still in the mix. Tim is there. Let's go through our best 11 very, very quickly. Goalkeeper Hugo Lloris for his exploits against Austin. Ryan Hollingshead for that same game. Vuk Latinovic and Nico Ben Alcazar for OCSC against Sacramento. Miyabi Mariah for Angel City against Chicago. In the midfield, Mark Delgado, Timothy Tillman, both for LAFC. Neely Martin for Angel City and Stephen Kelly for Orange County. And the two forwards, no surprise here, Denis Bouanga wearing the captain's armband, and Sonny for LAFC. Let me ask you first, Ananda. It's a lot of fun to have our best 11 every single week. Is there anybody here who stood out to you the most and who you're happy to see here on Best 11?
Well, I don't know if I'm happy to see them, but like I said, every time I'm on here, guys, every single time, like I think it's 4 out of 4 at this point. Those two forwards are all, like, it took a miracle for Joseph Paintsel to sneak in that one time, right? But of course, the fact that there's no Galaxy player on here is an indictment on that team. But less said about that, the better. But no, guys, like, I mean, I even said, like, when Vancouver and LAFC face each other in the playoffs, it is going to be fireworks, and I can't wait for just the matchup of the two stars. Not just the two teams, but just the two stars. And those two guys stick out, man. They've been absolutely killer for you guys, and it pains me. Absolutely pains me.
No, I hear that. Tim, you mentioned Nico Benalcazar and you mentioned Stephen Kelly, and here they are on the Best 11, along with Vuk Latinovic, by the way. Is there anybody else from that match that you thought maybe might have kind of found their way on to the Best 11?
I don't know. Maybe a guy wearing pink. He's from, with the first name Tet. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. But you know what? Hugo Lloris did play a great game. And so I got to give it up. Numbers, I'm not always the stat guy. I'm more of a visual guy as it goes. But, the reality is that Hugo played a great game. But at the end of the day, I would have put Ted on.
Listen, I'm right there with you. It gives us a chance to give Gunnar some grief, which is always nice. Philly, here we are with the two boys up top again, but obviously well represented on all four lines. Is there anybody here who stands out to you who's had a good performance against Austin for LAFC that you think, yeah, they absolutely should be where they're at?
Look, Marky Delgado, obviously. The most important acquisition that LAFC has had. And yes, and I'm incorporating Sonny into that mix, Matthew Chouanier, and obviously everybody else who came on board. I don't think LAFC goes the direction that they do and maintain the consistency that they do without the likes of a Marky Delgado. The guy was a winner in Toronto. The guy was a winner with the Galaxy. He's proven to be a winner at LAFC as well. And you can tell by his hustle, it didn't end as they were already in garbage time. Being a part of that goal that contributed to Jeremy Abobasi's success and punching the fourth one in. Marky Delgado, that right there is an example, a microcosm of the kind of guy he is from the start of the game all the way until the whistle's blown. He's an engine. He is that facilitator for between the forwards and the defenders. He's excellent defensively, can do so many things. That's LAFC does not get to this point of success without Delgado.
Yeah, and Ryan Hollingshead turned back the clock a little bit in these playoffs as well. Want to remind everybody again, if you are not already subscribed to the podcast on all your platforms, please do subscribe to Soccer in 60 on YouTube, because this is the fastest paced soccer show in SoCal, Soccer in 60, brought to you by SAC Health System. We will see you next week.